There is no better feeling in fantasy football than absolutely nailing your late round sleeper picks, whether it's an underrated rookie receiver that ascends to greatness, the perfect backup running back that claims that RB1 role, and there's no bargain or trade or running to waivers that you have to do because you've already got him, he's on your team, or a sneaky veteran pick that is set for a potential comeback on a new team. Fantasy football is just so much more fun when your sleeper pick hits. Let's talk through some of my favorite sleeper picks for 2025 that you must target in your fantasy drafts. Let me preface this by saying this is not because of the Jacoby Myers trade request. I was pro Dante Thornton long before that, and Thornton was already a starter regardless of Jacoby Myers. Yes, Jack Bech was the higher draft pick, but Bech's role is actually in direct conflict with Jacoby Myers. I mean, if Jacoby Myers is actually traded, which I don't think he's going to be, but if he was traded, if it would help anyone, it would be Bech. The Raiders needed a starter on the outside, and Dante Thornton is an outside receiver who thrived all season long and solidified his position as a starter. The Raiders' offense had its ups and downs this preseason, but one thing was very clear. Thornton is a big piece of this Raiders' offense. He fills an immediate need for the Raiders, and that is why he has the fantasy edge over Jack Bech. Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers, who again, I do not expect to get traded, will lead the way in targets, but Thornton's chance to be the third look in this offense is very high, and I love Thornton for a very specific reason in fantasy football. It's because he is a late round target who has a very high ceiling. He's a ceiling player, right? A player that will get his through big plays and touchdowns, not someone who has to earn a significant target share in week one. To me, he is a boom bust player in shades of a guy like Rashid Shaheed. Speaking of Rashid Shaheed, I know that investing into an offense of a team that legitimately won't have a consistent starting quarterback throughout the entire season and is likely tanking isn't exactly a thrilling experience, but Rashid Shaheed is essentially a free square at wide receiver 55. When you are looking at late round picks, you don't want roster cloggers. You want to take high upside swings that are good for potential boom weeks or high volume. Rashid Shaheed is the pure definition of a boom receiver. Rashid got hurt in week 6 of last year, but played the majority of that game, so I'll include it. He averaged 11.6 fantasy points per game in half PPR as wide receiver 27 over that time period. He had 3 receiving touchdowns, plus a touchdown on special teams as well. Now again, it was boom bust, right? That average included a game of 0 fantasy points in a game where it would have been 2 fantasy points if not for that return touchdown. But he is the type of player that you can throw into your fantasy lineup for a solid 15 to 20 points on any given week, regardless of the quarterback situation. So I mentioned that we want boom play or sneaky volume play, and Christian Kirk qualifies as a sneaky volume play. The Texans made multiple investments in rookie receivers, but Kirk's volume in the slot is a real hidden gem here. Erase Kirk's 2024 from your memory. It was weird. Doug Peterson was making some questionable choices and really limiting Kirk's looks. Kirk should be the second look for the Texans, and Stephon Diggs was successful out of the slot last season. But we've got a change in offensive coordinator. You do got to worry about that. But good news here. The change of direction in offensive coordinator is to the Rams 2024 passing coordinator. Effective utilization of the slot will likely remain a big piece of the Texans' offense, and Kirk should have a solid weekly floor and be a viable flex option. You need to look at Woody Marks, the Texans' rookie running back out of USC, whose ADP is so low that it is way back in the overall 200s range. Marks is a true 3-down back who gives me shades of Chase Brown, okay? A very well-rounded back, reliable back who can earn a 3-down role if he has the opportunity to get snaps. Well, if you follow me, you know that I have been very skeptical of Joe Mixon's injury all offseason. I have not a single share because this kind of reeked as a long-term lingering injury that would exist throughout the entire season. At the very least, it was realistic that we were going to see him missing the beginning of the season, and lo and behold, Joe Mixon is out for the first 4 games and potentially beyond that. Some people will tell you to buy the dip on Mixon because, well, he's Mixon and you're getting him for a fraction of the cost. I'm telling you, that is not something that you want to mess around with. This is weird. I don't like it. So when we are looking at the Texans' backfield, what are we doing? Nick Chubb will be the RB1. As of the filming of this video, the Texans haven't verified that 100%, but the reps and actions do point to Chubb being the lead back. When we look at Nick Chubb, his 2024 was truly dreadful at his age. you probably don't want to invest in it, but because of the perception, his ADP is extremely low for a starter. And I will give him some grace on last year, okay? He came back from his injury mid-season from a massive injury. Most running backs that do that don't perform well. They perform typically well below their typical output and don't look normal until an additional year later. So it's very possible that we could see a more typical Nick Chubb production this year out of him compared to last season. Still, he is knocking on the door of 30. We do need to be careful. Last season that he played fully was in 2022. As long as his ADP doesn't rise to well above a low-end RB3, you're fine to draft him if you want. But my preference here is Woody Marks. Dameon Pierce is obviously another potential option here, but a comeback there, kind of far-fetched. The best late-round pivot for you is to grab Woody Marks. The Panthers and Vikings are in the midst of trade talks for Adam Thielen, and Thielen's exit would be the perfect opportunity for Jalen Coker to see increased volume and ascend to a weekly viable fantasy option. You guys know that I am a big Bryce Young fan, despite my Clemson fandom. One, because he's a little bundle of joy, right? A sweet little angel, if you will. But also because he really did progress last season. He finally got the opportunity to develop within a competent coaching staff that actually knows how to develop young players, put quarterbacks in friendly situations, and there was such a big leap in his game last season, and I expect that to continue in 2025. I've talked about Tera and McMillan. I love him. I do believe he is the true wide receiver one of this offense, but you have to remember that this Panthers offense, it's one that will have to increase volume through the air as their defense continues to develop. Coker's 2024 was uneven because of injuries, but despite the overall production being underwhelming, there were very encouraging signs, and this preseason showed exactly why we got so hype about him during his rookie season. Regardless of the potential trade for Thielen, Coker's path to targets can come through two other ways. One, Thielen making it through the season has slim odds at age 35. Two, Coker could be pushing for Xavier Legette's spot and can actually just outplay Legette and earn a full-time starting position. This one is tough for me because you guys know that my heart belongs to Courtland Sutton this season, but he is not the only Denver Broncos that I like this season. I love the entire Broncos offense, quite frankly, so narrowing it down to a second target is very tough for me. But in terms of late round targets with very intriguing upside, I'm giving the very slight edge to Pat Bryant. Now there is a caveat. I do not believe that it'll start this way in week one. Marvin Mims has the edge on early season production, and he did have a very strong finish in 2024. It is nothing to ignore. But Pat Bryant can develop into a true weapon in this offense. When Sean Payton compares a receiver to Michael Thomas, you must pay attention. Bryant has been on fire this offseason and had a very impressive preseason. 8 receptions on 12 targets, 110 yards. Bryant will not be in your starting lineup anytime soon, but he is the perfect path here to ascend within the Broncos offense and claim that wide receiver 2 spot opposite Courtland Sutton. You just have to wait a little bit. Now, I was not going to include Braelon Allen in this video because I was trying to stick to players that you can draft in double-digit rounds towards the end of your draft, and I did not think that you could get him there, but the ADP doesn't lie here. I was shocked that the ADP was so low on Braelon Allen. Now, it does vary a lot, significantly depending on what app you're using. It's literally all over the place, but he is consistently going in the RB4 range, and that is wild considering that the RB1 that everyone is most concerned about is Braelon Allen's teammate, Breece Hall. I've talked about this before. The new Jets regime is bringing over the Detroit system. They want to use a committee. They clearly like Braelon Allen. Perhaps people have a bad taste in their mouth from the 2024 season where Allen looked objectively awful. But I excuse the entire Jets backfield in 2024 because the offensive line was absolutely abysmal. The system, the offense, it was just ineffective. Allen has had a strong offseason, and in the context of the Detroit system, he would be the David Montgomery. Now, don't go overdrafting him because Justin Fields' production on the ground does take away from running back goal line opportunities, and receiving work would lean towards Breece Hall. So there is a ceiling issue, but the volume will be there. This is going to be a very run-heavy offense, and there is no question about that. And Allen will be involved on day one. And he offers a high upside handcuff who also has real standalone value on a weekly basis. I'll give you one quarterback here. JJ McCarthy lands in the perfect situation for a first-year starter. Kevin O'Connell's system is one of the most quarterback-friendly systems in the league, built around timing, rhythm, and high passing volume. The coaching tree of Sean McVay tends to be a very easy path towards volume, and Kevin O'Connell has carried over that tradition. When Kevin O'Connell came to Minnesota, Kirk Cousins immediately saw a big uptick in production. Then we had Sam Darnold get rehabilitated last year and have a top 10 season. Now, J.J. McCarthy also inherits this elite supporting cast with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson, and even Aaron Jones, who I don't like from a fantasy perspective, but for McCarthy is a very reliable check down option. There is job security, there is a high floor, and he also offers sneaky rushing upside as well. I understand that relying on a young quarterback who has yet to start a game might make you feel a little bit uncomfortable, but McCarthy has the exact tool set of someone who can come in and give you QB1 upside immediately in week 1. He is set up to thrive. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure that you drop your favorite sleeper that is not mentioned in this video into the comments. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel. You can find me across all social media platforms at itsteratime, so make sure that you are tuned in because I'm bringing you so much fantasy football content all season long.